Welcome back to the PT Graduate Podcast. My guest today, Nicola Little. Hi, Nicola.
Hello, Rich.
Great to see you. You're looking very well today.
It's a wonderful day here.
You're in sunny Wellington, is that right?
I'm actually in the Wairarapa,
Okay.
which is sunnier.
Is it better than Wellington?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for your time today. It's really, really much appreciated. And the reason for our chat is to find out a little bit more about yourself and your career and the fact that you're getting into the industry as well. Which you've finished qualifying, or are you still finishing your studies, or done? I can't remember.
I finished the PT course in January this year, and I've just qualified as a certified menopause lifestyle coach this week.
That was the bit. Okay. Yeah. Congratulations. Further study already.
Well, you need it if you're dealing, because the people I want to work with are midlife and beyond women, and the whole hormonal change thing is absolutely huge, makes a huge difference. So I really, really needed to understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so once you got your PT qualifications, where did you go looking to find this additional qualification?
Well, I'd actually had an absolutely terrible time myself. I think of it as kind of a lost decade, really. A complete 10 years just gone out of my life. Because I had absolutely no idea what was going on. I'm just that old enough before the conversation around menopause really started.
Okay.
And so I found a course for clients that really helped me get through. And even at the time when I did that, I thought, I'd really like to do this one day. And that was started by a New Zealander, Wendy Sweet, who's now very, very much an international business. The course I was on, there were 20 people from all over the world. New Zealand is definitely in the minority. Yeah.
Interesting. Amazing.
Crazy.
Yeah. And so how long did that take? Because all courses can be different depending on what they're on.
This was I'd say about 4 months.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I think because Wendy's own background, you've probably heard of her, she started out as first a nurse and then a PT. So it also was a good course for me because it was tied into actually what I wanted to do as a PT. So she understands exercise and the differences you need and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I know Wendy, and her claim to fame is that she was the first PT in New Zealand.
Well, she's obviously got it first because I'd say, given how internationally successful her course for practitioners has been, she must have been one of the first in there as well. I mean, when you look around, it's very hard to find courses if you want to add this on as a graduate of some kind of health field. So I think she must have been one of the first there as well.
Yeah. She's the first in many ways. And so I think she helped develop the whole personal training program for Les Mills back in the day. Was from what I remember. But obviously now her PhD in that menopause space is groundbreaking because she's done a lot of research as part of her qualification, hasn't she? Which has then become the material that creates some of her programs.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
it's all evidence-based, science-based stuff. Before I went to before I trained as a PT, I was a head science communicator for the Earthquake Commission. So I'm a science nerd anyway.
That's what I was going to ask next. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the reason it's just such a great field to be in, like personal training, because you get to actually look at all this research all the time. And bring it in, and you're talking to people who know so much and all of that kind of stuff. So it's a great combination of like hands-on stuff and science and theory, and it's very cool. When I started my course, I actually didn't think that I would be a PT. I was just doing it for myself because I'd had so much difficulty over the years with getting injured all the time and all of that kind of stuff. I thought, I'll go and do a course and then I can be my own PT. But I
Love
thought you had to kind of squat twice your body weight to be a PT, you know.
it.
And then
Yeah.
when I was on the course, I'm like, oh, I might be able to do this. Yeah. And then we did practice clients,
Mm.
and it was absolutely mind blowing. Like the difference that you could make to people in just twice a week for a couple of months. It was extraordinary. I just didn't know that that could really happen. And
Mm.
so, yeah, I was
Mm.
kind of hooked after that.
Yeah, it's funny how that happens. I had a very similar story, just joining a course and thinking, oh, we'll just see what happens. And then before the end, it was like, I just have to do this.
Yeah, that's it. And adding in stuff like specifically for midlife women. I went to a barbecue here, and I mentioned to someone that I was doing menopause training. I got mobbed, absolutely mobbed by all the women there. Suddenly they just all came in. It's
Yep.
for some people it's a pretty tough time, and it's talk about trending as a topic. It's kind of everywhere now. It's very hot. So yeah.
It's kind of a good reflection of society, isn't it? The fact that the ladies at the barbecue mobbed you, and that sort of tells you a lot about what's going on out there in the world, is that there's not enough information out there for people. There's some real specialists like Wendy and a few others who really own that space, but it's not well shared, and it's not well communicated. And I think traditional exercise still does a poor job of including it in its original, in the initial training, the beginning of the journey. Just doesn't really, even special populations isn't really a thing anymore, because there's so much diversity in terms of the people that we work with. You can't really call it a special population anymore, and it's just kind of
52% of the population. That's
yeah,
our point.
it's doing them an enormous disservice. So I think when you realize that you've got your base qualification, but you need more than that to really help serve the people that obviously you connect with. Good on you for just stepping straight into it and doing it, because you'll be the guru in your area for helping those people.
Oh, I don't know. I partly having been through it, I think.
Yeah.
And really believing that it can work, like lifestyle. I mean, it doesn't matter, whether you're taking hormones or not. You're still in an older body that's getting older. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes with that as well. So it's good to actually have been through that and understand what the differences can be. I mean, one of the standout ones for me is when I was young, I could easily recover from almost anything within 48 hours. When I got over the lost decade and started crawling back, 4 days. And that's what I really, just because I was older, and that's what I noticed with a lot of people who get to midlife, they put on a bit of weight, they start training really hard and just not getting any recovery, because their recovery time is actually a lot longer than it was. I mean, it's hard to accept it,
Yeah, it is, because even if we're 40, 50, whatever age, we don't necessarily feel that. We sort of, psychologically, we still feel a lot younger. And I think there's always that lag. Certainly that's been my experience as I've aged. I've always felt, years younger in my mind than I physically am. And I suppose there's a bit of brain catch up needed to realize that the body isn't going to be able to do quite what it used to, even if you feel like that younger person that could recover quickly.
I mean, I think for women it's easier. In fact, in some ways, I think that midlife change is a fantastic opportunity, because it's really motivating for people to work out, oh gosh, things are changing, so I need to change how I look after myself. So you've sort of got an in there. If someone's having a hard time, it's a lot easier to say, well, you know how you used to do 5 HIIT sessions a week and that all worked for you. Is it working at the moment? No. No, I feel terrible. Well, you know, maybe we need to change that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So, well, I'm hoping anyway that that's going to be highly motivating.
It's definitely an in. I think because, you know, having been through it yourself, and lost that decade, you're very motivated to help others who you don't want them to lose that decade. You want them to be able to make the adaptations with your advice and enjoy those years as much as they possibly can, and get the most out of them, because that's what life's about, isn't it?
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, all I'm trying to do is really make shortcuts for other people, because I feel like I found out the hard way. And yeah, I mean, you know, as with, I guess, an awful lot of PTs have all got reasons for doing it, often because of some background they've got through injury or whatever like that. And what they really want to do is shortcut other people through all the stuff they've found out. So,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, similar.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. I think that's a really useful marketing message to your audience is, you know, don't do what I did. But now
exactly.
You know, it's good though, isn't it? You know, you're just being humble and vulnerable, and sharing your wisdom from both, you know, experiential and education, right? And that's a really irresistible offer, because, as you say, it's going to shortcut people's journeys, and people will pay for that. They really will.
Well, I hope so. Because I'm really just starting out in the business, and I had actually really wanted to work in a gym, but there are a huge number of personal trainers in the Wairarapa, probably more than anywhere else. Incredible number. Okay. And I also went for a job down in Wellington, which I so wanted, and I didn't get it. But then what I've discovered now, which sort of surprised me, because to me gyms are kind of like you transition from bars to gyms, you know, like gyms have got great music and there's people to watch, and you don't queue for drinks, you always queue for a cable machine. There's never enough cable machines, you know. And so for me, it was just nothing to be in a gym, no matter what shape I was in. And I started meeting all these women who won't go to a gym until they've lost weight, or all of this kind of stuff. And so I thought, I'm going to be a mobile personal trainer, because I want to get to these women that are too shy. I just would feel incredibly uncomfortable going to a gym, and get them and train with them, with the idea eventually that they would think, yeah, this is a place for me as well.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, but it was a big surprise to me that people felt if they wanted to improve, they had to improve first before they actually were good enough to go to a gym. Funny, eh?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I remember that when I was doing boot camps, even it was you know, I suppose there's a certain level of fitness, but at the same time, it wasn't looked down upon if people turned up and were unfit. But there was that perception of, oh, well, I can't turn up to boot camp until I'm fit. It's like, well, no, that's the whole point. You know, you turn up wherever you're at, and we will help improve that. But there is this perception that there's sort of an entry point that people have to be at before it's acceptable.
Yeah. No, that's right. And I think as part of the course I was on, we had to go out to, you know, lots of gyms and have a look around. And when I started looking around, I thought, you know, everyone here does look like they've been training for a while. You know, where are these people who are, you know, really struggling with their metabolism and all that? They're not here.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of on a bit of a mission to get them there, I hope.
That's really good. So what are you still working in that communications side of things? Is it what? No.
I think, like, for me, well, I mean, you know, it was a very full-on career, like really full-on, and it was extremely difficult to just do that sort of thing part-time. And so I decided to simply make the jump and go all in. As I said, well, I was doing the course.
Yeah.
And then I took some time out. I thought I'll just take some time out from working, do the course. And then when I was doing it, I thought, yeah, this is really, really what I want to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I've
Brilliant.
actually got to make it all work.
Yeah. Well done. And what do you think some of the transferable skills would be from what you were doing to this business?
I think one of the really big ones is listening, and working with people as partners. I think people like PTs or even physios I see that can really listen and let people talk about what's happening for them seem to be able to get really good results with people.
Yeah.
And, my work was just all about fundamentally trying to get people to do what you wanted them to do without letting them know that that's what you were doing. So you had to understand exactly where they were coming from to make that work, really. It's kind of what you're doing, really. And so it's actually quite similar, just in a different area.
Yeah, it does sound similar. Yeah. And I think it's that influence strategy, isn't it? You want people to do the right thing, but nobody likes to be told what to do. So it's about finding a strategy that's going to work for that person, and you're not going to know what that is without listening, like you say.
Yeah. And those things about understanding that there are different learning styles and different personality types. I'm someone that just wants a program that starts here, and I do the same thing all the time, and add on a little bit. I'm that kind of person. At the moment, I don't have any clients like that. They're all people that just want to do different things all the time.
Oh, right.
So you have to figure out how to work the same muscles but give them a different exercise, and they all be happy. Because I'm just so not like that. To me, that's that. If I was the client, I'd feel it was chaotic. But the ones I've got are all those, real, they're ENTPs and INTPs and those sorts of personality types, and not like me. So I think what I did learn out of, that corporate work is that you really want to understand how people are different from you as well.
It's very easy, I think, going into it, knowing a little bit about it and thinking that you can train everybody how you train yourself. I remember that. I remember that being such a lesson, because your frame of reference might be quite small, and as the more years you do, hopefully the learning means that expands, but it can be quite small, and so you sort of make an ignorant assumption that everybody can do the same thing, and A, they may not be able to physically, but B, they may not have the inclination to want to. So finding that out is a really critical step in terms of pre-screening people and finding out how they tick.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. I mean, if I trained people the way I like to be trained, I would bore all the people I've got at the moment senseless. So I think that was quite a big thing. And obviously the last few years I was the science communicator. So that's been really useful for understanding science and papers and ideas, because health's just one of those areas where there's just so much coming at you all the time, and just trying to figure out what sort of makes sense and what's here today and probably in 3 months completely overtaken, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a moving feast the whole time, isn't it? You're right. The science is always renewing and updating and providing different insights to what we already have. So keeping up with that is really important. So, are you fairly familiar with reading research and those sorts of papers?
Yes, because that's what I used to do. Because largely because scientists are wonderful people, actually wonderful people, and every detail matters.
Yeah, yeah,
So you spend an awful lot of time trying to get to the just the thing that
yeah,
then someone who's not into science is going to be able to understand and enjoy.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that was a lot of it. Yeah.
That's quite a skill, isn't it? Sort of distilling down all of the jargon, all of the data. It's a large body of work always, isn't it? And
Mm.
helping the layperson go, "Oh, I get it," without it being too complicated is quite a skill.
Yeah, and science is always changing as well. I mean, that's the thing you learn. There's nothing. If you think something's right now, well, look, I mean, look at what happened with HRT.
Mm, mm,
Um,
mm.
but it could be completely overtaken in 2 years.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
That sort of thing. But I
yeah,
still find that really interesting. I mean, again, one of the things that you get when people are midlife and on, not just women, I guess,
yeah.
is sarcopenia, is a really big thing,
Yes.
this
Yep.
loss of muscle. Well, Otago University has got a centre that's one of the leading research places in the world at the moment for trying to figure out why. Because no one actually knows why that happens. They know that the muscle fibers waste, but they
Yep.
don't know what sets that off.
Hmm.
And so the thing that happens at the same time is the nerves kind of separate out from the muscle. And so what
Right.
these guys are trying to work out is which comes first.
Right.
Is the muscle wasting? Is that actually a result of the nervous system, not of the muscles themselves? Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
Which
yeah, yeah.
actually matters for PTing
Yeah.
because I mean I'm trying to write this 5 secrets of fitness over 50, but one of them
Nice.
is and it's something that I've learned with you as well, Rich. I think that working on the nervous system is really, really important
Yeah,
when you're training people because you need to keep that going. So it's not
definitely.
just a matter of getting in there and getting a good lunge and a good squat. It's actually getting a lot of nervous system activation and
Mm,
movement as
mm,
well.
mm.
So it'll be really interesting to see where that research goes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And
That
New
is,
Zealand's right in there.
we're good, aren't we? We're really good.
Mm,
We've got
yeah.
that longevity study as well, which comes out of
Yeah.
Dunedin, one
Yeah.
of the longest running in the world.
Yeah.
And every time they
Yeah.
do an update, it's absolutely fascinating listening to just the update, what's happened to those people in the last 5 years or 10 years or whatever it is. And some have dropped off and some are doing this and some are doing that. It's like, wow,
Mm.
who had the foresight to start something off like that? And I think it's in its third or fourth hands compared to
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
original researcher who kicked it off.
Yeah. That's absolutely incredible,
Mm,
incredible study. Yeah.
But that
Anyway,
does interest me.
yeah. I mean, I think that is one of the great
Yeah.
things about you know personal training and that kind of work is that you get to apply this stuff,
Mm,
and when you hear about something out there, you can think, how does this make a difference to someone's life?
yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's making the theoretical practical and real for people.
Mm,
Interpreting that data into what are the real life applications. How does it change your day to day? What could you do differently, and how do we program for that so that we're taking advantage of that new knowledge, that new research, and to everyone's benefit. Yeah, it's great.
mm, it is, yeah. Mm.
Other transferables, other things that sort of come with all that experience from other things, other roles, other domains.
Um, I'm, I'm trying to think.
Sorry, put you on the spot
Just
now.
that I think it's just a matter of being older. That
Right.
thing about not having any trouble talking to anybody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's really basic, but and not having a problem telling someone, well, kind of not exactly directing them, but being sort of in charge.
yeah,
I think, and
yeah.
I think for some people who are starting out, like I'm starting out, that is sometimes that's a bit hard for them. Like just, rocking up to absolutely anybody, all of that kind of stuff. So I think, just when you're older, it's easier.
Yeah, that life experience certainly provides you that little bit of confidence, and I suppose you know yourself better, so you probably are more likely to back yourself more, having done other things and been successful in other places in life. That's probably part of it, I imagine.
Oh, part of it. And I guess for me, the other thing is knowing that you need help. I mean, here am I, I've done the course and I've done this other certificate, but I'm going into people's houses, trying to help support them with their health and well-being. Well, I'm just little me. So I know that I need people that know a lot more.
Yeah.
So I signed up for the holistic movement coaching thing, where basically we meet once a week and can ask questions of people who are super experienced, that kind of stuff. So I don't feel so much on my own.
Yeah. It's good, isn't it, to be part of a community that sort of thinks the same way, and like you say, you can pick their brains, and you don't feel alone, because some days can be a little bit lonely. Yes, you're seeing lots of clients, but between clients it can be just you on your own and just your thoughts. So you're right. I think plugging into something like that HMC community is a really, really useful add-on to your business in more than one way.
Yeah, I mean, I'd feel actually that because I'm such a beginner, that without that backing, I wouldn't have the confidence to just be the person that goes into people's houses and is their main person, because I know there's so much I don't know. I think that's the thing.
Yeah. But I suppose if you come across, I remember in the early days, if I didn't know an answer to something or I wasn't sure, I would just put them on hold. In other words, we'd finish the session, but then I go, I'll tell you next time, I will find out. And so it accelerates your learning, because sometimes you don't know all the answers, but if you're willing to learn and go and find them, you learn because you get the answer, but your clients are probably going to respect you for the fact that you were honest and you went away and did the work. Sort of. There's not much downside, really, is it? In those scenarios.
I guess so. I don't know. I'll find out, because sometimes I wonder if you go, oh no, actually I don't know. Go and ask someone. They might think I'm a naughty,
No,
but
you can't.
But it's really good having people to ask.
Yeah, it is. And that's right. There's a library of work, plus all the people involved in the program that can be spoken to really quite quickly with tech nowadays. You can message, you can get videos sent, you can get answers pretty quickly. Good on you. Excellent. So you're part of that HMC community as well, which is another string to your bow. So you've got. I remember talking to you a while back. There were people that you were wanting to help because you could see some of the challenges that they were struggling with, and it was almost the motivator to push you into doing what you've decided to do, because you were just wanting to help them. That's sort of what it seemed like.
That's true, and I think that's the other thing that I got out of doing the course that I did in Wellington, because even though I've known a lot of PTs over the years and they've all been great people, I don't know, I had this idea of PTs being like, big iron people, and that's really their big interest, like give me the heavy iron sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the course I did had a lot of people on it, and every single one of them was there because they wanted to help people. And it really, that was not what I expected. That genuine caring, like each one of them, even the ones that did go really heavy.
Yeah.
So that's another reason I thought I wanted to do it. I just wanted to be sort of part of that world where there's a whole bunch of people that really, really care about the people that they're working with.
Yeah, that's great. So quite a mixture of backgrounds on your course as well as ages.
Yes, I was the oldest by a good 3 decades, I'd say. But which, strangely enough, didn't make any difference at all. I noticed probably for the first 10 minutes. After that, just not a deal.
Yeah.
But yes, very mixed, and people that were going off to do all kinds of different things in terms of who they wanted to work with.
Right.
Yeah, everything from your real power people to sort of more functional people. Yeah, it was really, really interesting. Oh,
Excellent.
stunt. We had a stunt person.
Ooh, interesting.
Who then went off and is doing PT with other stunties in Auckland.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be a bit interesting.
Yeah. So real mixture of people. It was great.
Yeah. And again, you get that sort of that cross section, a bit like the ladies at the barbecue. You get that cross section that represents what's going on out in the real world. Yeah. Fantastic. I like to wrap up with some tips, and I think, regardless of the fact that you're relatively new into the industry, and that's why this is such an interesting conversation, there'll be things that have worked for you in your working life over the years that you have sort of stuck by because they've worked for you, and those are the top tips, the things I like to pick people's brains on. Are there some things that that come to mind when I say that, in terms of things that have worked for you and top tips, and they may apply to PT or they may not?
I think the thing is what I always thought to myself when I used to do it, is you just have to plod sometimes. It's not always, things don't go your way, it's not always easy. Yeah. And you just have to plod through those times. Does that make sense? You've just got to keep, it's that thing of just keeping even the tiniest bit of momentum, because the second you sit back, especially if you're trying to drive a big project as the project lead, it's all over. Right. So you've always got to plod and make sure people are plodding. And I can actually see how that would be relevant to PT, because you're going to have clients that are in a time where they don't feel like they're progressing much, and somehow you've got to just keep that going. I think that's a really important one. And the other one is, and we've already talked about this really, but is doing things doing the things that the customer wants, and in the way that the customer wants, because otherwise you're just not going to have a business. It doesn't matter what it is. So wherever I've been, because I've always been in that communications, partly marketing space, it's always talking in a way that makes sense to the customer, not to you. You're irrelevant. That what I always used to, I'd always be trying to train up executives and sort of saying to them, what you really need to understand is that communication isn't when you talk, it's what happens in the head of the person that you're talking to. That's where the communication happens. And if you're talking technical language and long words, all you're communicating is that you're arrogant, So you've got to always try and think about what's that person's background, therefore how is this going to process in their head that makes sense to them. And I think that's really important for anything interpersonal. That's probably
I like it a lot.
Yeah, that was the biggest principle that I worked through all the time.
It's massive, and that came up in some of the NLP work that I did, and the message sent isn't necessarily the message received. The message sent is the understanding made by the receiver.
That's right.
And so that's an immediate disconnect. Well, not necessarily, but could well be an immediate disconnect and a misunderstanding, that there's an assumption that the person got what you said straight away.
It's
Yeah.
really like I used to sort of give talks on this as well around, various conferences. And one of the things was get people to, see what their first response is when you say, oh, there's a dog just come into the room. Because everyone's view of what a dog is different. Some people are thinking, oh, fluffles.
Yeah.
Other people are thinking, dog. And so it's not just what the picture you have in your brain, it's what actually happens to how they feel. And it's even something that's simple. You would think that that couldn't be miscommunicated, but it is, because everybody's got a life that means that dog, the word dog, has a different meaning for them.
Yeah. It's so simple, isn't it? And yet it can be done so wrong or so badly. I think there's a lot of assumptions made, and I think when you're communicating, a really important part of it is checking understanding, and it can be as simple as, when you give instructions, just tell me back what I've told you. You ask them to put it in their words back to you, and the thing you get back is like, no, that's not what I said. So a great example of it. Okay, so and that tells you need to do something different about the way you communicate, so that it does land for people, so that when they tell it back to you, it's what you intended.
That's a really great point. I mean, that's absolutely practical as well. Yeah.
Reasonably quick and reasonably easy, and I think it can be applied to the gym floor, right? So someone says, well, I've never done that before, how do I do it? Well, what I suggest is split stance, and in the hand here, and and your head here, and your shoulders here. If you deliver too much information, they've stopped listening after the second thing. You want to keep it really simple and check their understanding before they do it, because no one wants to really humiliate themselves or embarrass themselves and start doing it really badly, and then they've got to be corrected 14 times before they get it right. So it goes to your point.
No, you're totally right. And in fact, you just reminded me that we did learn that on the course that I went on, but somehow it just sort of slipped out of me doing it. I'm totally going to get back into that.
Nice. Love it.
Because it is really important. Yeah, you're right.
No, but you're absolutely right. And I think obviously you've got some experience in doing that, and obviously helping other people understand it. So I think you're streets ahead on that point.
It's not the checking back.
That's brilliant. Thank you. I've got some good notes there, and I will add those to the show notes. If there are people listening, and this is quite possible, who are in your position, they've come across the podcast, they're listening to what you've said, and they're umming and ahhing about joining the industry or changing jobs, or following their passion, whatever it may be. What might you say to those people?
Oh,
On the spot.
No, well, it is.
Sorry.
I mean, it's one thing to say, follow your passion, but some passions pay more than others.
Yeah.
And to make that decision, you probably, I would, like, for me personally, I think, even though, I did it way older than anyone else I've ever met, it was the right time for me, because I didn't want to be under really bad financial pressure trying to make this work.
Right. Yeah.
I wanted to be better set up. Whereas, because I'm a completely risk-averse person, it's just my personality type.
Yep.
Whereas there are some people that are very happy to go out and do it. And I do think, having watched so many little businesses over the years, that if people really love something, like they really love it and they're good at it, it's always going to work. It just does. Especially if you line yourself up with good support. Yeah, I mean, I would say it's, as I did say earlier, it's something where I think if you're just going to go to the course and then go out there by yourself, well, I'd be reasonably wary about doing that. But there's so much good support around in different ways. But yeah, it's so much fun. It's just so much fun. I mean, the last 10 years of where I was working, even though I was doing great stuff, I was thinking, oh, work's just not fun anymore. But, you know, it puts the fun back into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. That's cool. Okay, and if people want to find out more about you or find you to talk to you, is LinkedIn a good place, or Facebook? What would be?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. I will add the link. Excellent. Right. Thank you very much. It's been great talking. I really appreciate your time and your wisdom and your insights. I'm sure people will too.
Great to talk to you, Rich.
Thanks, Nicola.
Bye-bye.
See ya.